the best part about it is that they're just going about handling their business. I was listening to Arvell Reese, and is literally like 5-word sentences about himself and some of the things that Caleb has been talking about. The dudes are just so locked in here about just doing their job and not worrying about all of the other things and awards. They know all those happen when you go win and you win decisively.
The Bobby Carpenter Show, only on SportsGrid.
Baker Mayfield is the most important player on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they are in first place right now, looking dead in the eye of home field advantage throughout the playoffs. They played a bad division. They're going to win a lot of games, and they're the best fourth quarter team, or at least the 2-minute warning team in all football. So, don't sleep on that.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Awesome and monumentous win against Oregon. Texas has saved their season. Texas has given themselves life to potentially crash the college football playoff party. For OU, a loss to Texas shouldn't be the end of your season. And yet with that remaining schedule, it feels like it could be. Books certainly pricing it that way. A lot of movement off of the Red River rivalry.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Paige or Caitlin? Who do you take and why?
I think for the WNBA, in a sense where they're moving toward more guards when it's been very post and big heavy in the past. But there's a reason why Caitlin Clark set all those records at college and then went into the WNBA and set all those records immediately. I really do think she's just a different level talent.
Betting above the rim, only on Sports.
Good afternoon. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Happy Monday to all of you streaming us and watching us live. We got plenty to get to on today's show. Some big news, of course, from the National Football League based on the results that happened on Sunday. We'll also discuss tonight's Monday Night Football games. There are 2 of them this evening. Big news in college football as well, as a very big shakeup over the weekend. Number 2 team in the country loses. Another team fires a head coach. We'll get to that as well. Guests on the show, as always, Adam Kaplan, our SportsGrid NFL insider, will weigh in on the latest in the NFL. Jacob Kamaker is also with us as well. Some great guests on the program to dive in and make sure we have you covered with everything that's happened over the weekend and get you ready for another week of college and pro football. Not to mention, guess what else is coming up this weekend? That's right, the World Series. We got a Game 7 coming tomorrow night in the American League Championship Series. So let's get started. Our first story is a big one in the world of sports betting, because it appears as though the state of Wisconsin could be inching toward legalizing sports betting. They're considering a bipartisan bill very similar to the one that is in the state of Florida that would legalize online sports betting simply for the tribes and the tribal casinos. This is very similar to what happened in Florida a few years ago, which led to a lot of lawsuits and the Supreme Court getting involved. But if the tribes end up winning and going through this, we could have our next state legalizing sports betting. Of course, the state of Missouri goes live on December the 1st. Maybe Wisconsin is the next state to go. We'll check in on our expert, Sam McQuillan, will tell us whether or not, indeed, it is one step closer. Last night, the banged-up San Francisco 49ers got a little bit healthier and pulled out a win. They did not have their starting quarterback yesterday in Brock Purdy, but Mac Jones seems like he's going to earn a contract for next year, that's for sure. 20-10, another victory for San Francisco. And yeah, Christian McCaffrey is the healthy guy on this team. He's been fantastic all season long, scored a couple touchdowns for them. Falcons offense fell completely flat in Santa Clara yesterday as the defense came through for the 49ers. Kyle Shanahan liked the output, liked the grind, and said it was a big win for his squad.
I was pleased just how much of a team effort it was. We thought we had to win that game a certain way. I mean, even last night talking about how we felt we needed to run the ball, definitely. I challenged the team saying I'd like to get 40 runs called. But that's not just an offensive thing. In order to do that, you got to play defense like we did tonight. You got to play special teams like we did tonight. And to be able to them allow us to pull that off was huge.
Anytime you play a team like this and the quality opponents you're playing, you got to be on the screws with every single thing. And we were not tonight. That situation happened at the end of the half. It happened in 2 minutes at the end of the half, and it happened at the end of the game. Those things happen, and that's why they won the football game.
That 3rd and 13, were there 10 men on the field? Is that?
There absolutely was, and it's absolutely embarrassing, and it's my fault, and I'll get it fixed.
How did it happen?
It doesn't matter. It's my fault.
Raheem, it looked like Mike got a little shaken up one of those plays late, maybe in a leg. Is he okay?
We don't know that yet. Obviously, we got to go let him get evaluated. He gave me the thumbs up on the sideline when we were asking him, so he was okay to finish. We'll see where he is tomorrow.
Falcons did make some mistakes early in that game yesterday. Meanwhile, talk about a thrilling finish. The early window of NFL games was probably the biggest dud of the season. Yikes, a lot of blowouts, low scoring, no fun. Then all of a sudden, the second half of the later games became exciting, and maybe one of the games of the year in the NFL was witness to the Denver Broncos putting up 33 points in the fourth quarter. And they come back to beat the Giants 33-32. Giants played well also, but their field goal kicker missed a key extra point at the end of the game. The Broncos, of course, did not cover, but imagine having the Giants on the money line yesterday. Man, that had to hurt. Bo Nix, in fact, after the game, was preparing for a losing speech, trying to explain maybe how the offense struggled.
I was thinking about how I was going to answer questions if we got shut out. Not where you want to be, and at some point I knew we've done it before in the fourth quarter. We're gonna, at some point we're gonna go down and score. Now maybe too late, we may not score enough, but at some point we're gonna do it. We did it. Got a good drive there at the end of the third, scored quickly in the fourth, and it's almost like once we scored and got the 2-point conversion, we knew how to play all of a sudden. So it was just, I don't have many answers, but we just kept fighting.
Packers had all kinds of issues getting to the land of the desert in Arizona. Travel plans were delayed with flights and such. They end up coming back to win against the Cardinals 27-23 in the fourth quarter. Packers were favored big. They did not cover the spread against Jacoby Brissett, who was filling in again for Kyler Murray. But Matt LaFleur alludes to some of those issues they had even before the game, and happy they pulled it out.
I can't say enough about our guys. Just from the moment we got on the trip, nothing seemed to go right. To in game, there was a lot of things that didn't go right, but the guys kept battling, and that's what it takes in this league. And it's encouraging that we haven't played our best ball. Give credit to Arizona. I thought that there's a scrappy team, and we knew that going in. I mean, shoot, they've lost 4 games by 9 points, and then you lose another one by 4. So, but our guys, they're a resilient group, and I'm just really proud of them and really happy for our guys.
Meanwhile, the Philadelphia Eagles get back on track. Jalen Hurts threw for 326 yards and 3 touchdowns, and they beat the Vikings 28-22. Did Philly. No word on who will quarterback for Minnesota this week. Also, Daniel Jones and the Indianapolis Colts keep on rolling. Jonathan Taylor, 3 more touchdowns. They beat the Chargers 38-24 in Los Angeles. How about the New England Patriots? Man, my bet of the year did not come through with the Tennessee Titans. It was not even close. 31-13. The old coach goes in and beats his old team as New England defeats Tennessee 31-13. Patriots, big favorites. Was close at the half at least, but no, this turned out to be a blowout in the end. Here's Drake May on playing some of his best football this season.
Yeah, just keep playing the offense. Just I think we're learning each other, learning the offense together, and I think more and more comfortable every week. And I think that's the big thing with Coach. He's calling great games, and I think we got even more left in the tank. And I think that's what we'll look back on in that fourth quarter there to try to really seal the game.
Those 5 guys up front.
Those 5 guys up front of balling, man. Those guys are warriors. Those are you're the heartbeat of this team, and they come show up every week.
The Rams got a 5-touchdown performance from Matthew Stafford, and he threw less than 200 yards. You don't see that often, but the Jaguars' offense was inept in London. 35-7, the Rams beat the Jaguars. Dallas ends up a favorite against the Commanders, 44-22 the final. Jaden Daniels banged up in that game. We'll see if he plays this week. And also Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs blow out the Raiders 31-0 as the Chiefs are back on track clearly after a couple of early season losses. How about the Chicago Bears? They just keep on winning. They're now 4-2 on the season, easily beating the Saints 26-14. Ben Johnson, one of the candidates for Coach of the Year, happy with the output.
I think this game really started and finished there with our defense. They just did a phenomenal job throughout. When you look at those critical numbers, it was 44 yards rushing. I saw 4 sacks and 4 turnovers, and I just thought, credit to Dennis Allen and his crew one more time. They're doing a great job getting us the ball on offense with great field position, and it certainly gives us a ton of momentum in games like that. And so they just did an awesome job. Offensively, the 200 yards rushing, I think both ball carriers ran physical, ran violent, but huge credit to our offensive line and the tight ends in that core blocking unit, because you could feel that line of scrimmage move at times, and our backs were finding the holes. So.
Good news and bad news for the Carolina Panthers. They win their 3rd straight game, beating the Jets 13-6, but reports this morning are out that Bryce Young, their starting quarterback, is going to miss this week's game, which means Andy Dalton would get a start yet again in the NFL. Miami Dolphins now fall to 1-6. Tua Tagovailoa, 3 interceptions. Browns got it together yesterday, 31-6 the final. In college football, a very close win for the Gators at homecoming did not prove to save. The era of Billy Napier comes to an end as he gets fired. The Gators will be looking for a new head coach. Napier finished just over 500 as the head coach of the Gators, and the Blue Jays have pushed things to a Game 7 in the American League Championship Series. They'll play it tomorrow night in Seattle, 6-2 to final. The winner will play the Dodgers in the World Series. Coming up next, Vinny Iyer joins us from Sporting News. Don't go away. Let's do A.J. Brown. He's seems to be kind of upset with the way things are going. The Eagles will trade A.J. Brown at some point this season, buy or sell.
This is what really annoys fans about certain players. Don't you care about winning? All right, he complained last year. He won a Super Bowl, right? He's reading books, and he's blah, blah, blah. He's complaining this year, too. And he was complaining while they were winning. Yeah, of course they lost last night to the Giants there, but he had 6 catches, 80 yards. And then I think I heard him come out and say, I don't remember having an offensive meeting with Hurts and Barkley, even though it was reported that they did have a meeting. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but if they did have a meeting and he's saying he doesn't, what is going on here? Do you really want to be traded? I mean, grass isn't always greener. They're not going to trade you to a good team, right? You're certainly not going to Detroit, or San Francisco. They're not going to trade you to anybody in their own conference that's good, that could go compete with them. So just strange. Do I think he's going to be traded? No. They've come out and said he won't be traded, but that, who cares? That could just be to drive the price up if they really wanted to move him. So I'm going to sell this, but, if he really wants to be dealt, he can make life hard, keep complaining, keep doing this and that, embarrassing everybody, but really strange situation what's going on in Philadelphia. You won a Super Bowl, you'd think you'd be happy for a little bit.
I think that, I don't know, would they do this deal? I think Howie Roseman is not adverse to making deals, but George, wouldn't they have to acquire somebody like A.J. Brown to make this kind of trade? I'm going to say sell. I think he's going to stick it out with the team. I think they're going to move him in the offseason. I think they're going to move him.
Fantasy Sports Today. Fridays starting at 3 p.m. Eastern. Only on SportsGrid.
In this wacky world of the National Football League, it's hard to predict the best, maybe easier to predict the worst. It's just the kind of season that it's been. Parity is back in the NFL, and Vinny Iyer is with us to break it all down. We'll go through Sunday night and then get to the rest of the NFL. Well, at least one game kind of went the way that we thought it would go, Vinny, as San Francisco ends up beating Atlanta last night, in case you missed it. Really good game plan put together by the 49ers defense. They seem to be getting healthier as they pick up the win. as the 20-10 is the final there. And I mean, through it all, it's kind of interesting, Vinny, that you think about the last 2 years of the NFL with San Francisco not having Christian McCaffrey. Now that he is back and playing at a very high level, it's kind of nuts that they really don't need anyone else, right? Like the receivers aren't there, they throw to him. No Mason, doesn't matter, hand the ball off to him. When he's on the field, he's one of the few difference makers out of the backfield in the NFL.
Yeah, I think the focus has been on all their other key injuries, starting with Brock Purdy and Brandon Ayuk and going down the line. But a couple of things have happened here. Number one is the two most important guys on offense still there. Trent Williams, the left tackle, and Christian McCaffrey. If they're out on the field, they're going to have a chance to beat anyone and move the ball and do what they need to do. Then the other side, look, I don't know how they keep finding these guys, but it seems like there's always somebody to step up. I mean, this kid Bethune that they had, he was playing a lot like Fred Warner out there. Like, the systems are great, and I think the personnel is fitting the system well. So I think Robert Saleh, look, as much heat as he got with the Jets, this is his sweet spot. Calling the defense for the 49ers and getting them in position. This was his best job, and you see it continue to happen. And look, you're going to ride McCaffrey as much as possible when you don't have your receivers and your quarterback. And you're seeing that until teams can stop that, and until he slows down at all, you're going to keep riding that. And this is a big reason maybe why the 49ers are going to be in strong playoff position without all these guys.
Yeah, two strong teams in the NFL. The Colts with Jonathan Taylor, 49ers with Christian McCaffrey. It's like back to the old days of running back. Meanwhile, Mac Jones, I still think Brock Purdy is the quarterback here, and there's really not a lot to discuss, Vinny. But if Purdy can't go, they feel comfortable with Jones. I guess the outcome of this season, would you say, fair to say that there's going to be some team 3-14 or 3 something like that that's going to sign Purdy. I'm sorry, it's going to sign Mac Jones to keep the seat warm for whatever quarterback they get in the future. I think he's probably going to get a starting job based off some of these performances.
Yeah, he's got to think twice about that, right? If they give him enough money instead of going somewhere else to be a shot of like an $8 or $9 million kind of bridge quarterback, right? I think I would stay in San Francisco because it's a good offense. He seems to do well in it. It's a winning team. Like, I don't know if I want to go and take lumps somewhere else if I'm him, because he's right now the best quarterback, number 2 in the NFL, because he's so good in that system and does what he needs to do. And some guys are just better off being number 2s. And he looked like to me when he was at Alabama that he was going to be in the league a long time as a number 2 quarterback. And I think now you're seeing that. Maybe he was overdrafted. Now you're seeing him in a system that more belongs to what he can do. But the big difference between him and Brock Purdy, the deep ball, when they get Brandon Ayuk back at some point, which they expect, and George Kittle going, he's a guy that throws downfield. Very few quarterbacks can do that. I think there's maybe 4 or 5 guys who can throw the deep ball as well as Brock Purdy in this league.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, I think Kittle was probably a decoy yesterday, right? Because he didn't get a single catch in that game yesterday. Really strange. Okay, let's get to the other team in the division in London. The Rams just throttle the Jaguars. I was very surprised at this outcome, 35-7. Jaguars did absolutely nothing until like 8 minutes left in the game. And it wasn't even that the Jaguars made a ton of mistakes, Vinny. It was just that every time the Rams got the ball, they scored, and they really didn't have to do much, either on the air or in the ground. I mean, 182 yards and 5 touchdowns for Matthew Stafford. It just speaks to more of the ineptitude, unfortunately, for Jacksonville in this game.
Yeah, the Rams are just a superior situational team. And Liam Cohen, I know, learned from Sean McVay. He's tried to implement a lot of the Sean McVay things, and they've worked to some degree in Jacksonville. But you got to execute when you have those chances close to scoring position. You got to come through on the 3rd downs, the 4th downs. You got to make those plays. You can't drop balls that are over the middle. You can't have that many penalties that mess up both the down and distance for your offense and defense. So they're just still learning, I guess. They're kind of resetting the clock there with Liam Cohen. They have a lot of young people. Trevor Lawrence, I mean, he's pressing, but he's not getting a lot of help either. It seems like if you can shut down the Jaguars running game, you're pretty much going to shut down the Jaguars offense.
Yeah. And right now, 49ers and Rams neck and neck on the FanDuel Sportsbook to win the division. Seattle, a little bit of an afterthought because they missed this past week. And finally, now that the Cardinals have fallen so far back, it's on to next year, most likely for them. Eagles turn things around, Vinny, as they win 28-22, a rare game where they put it together for the entire game, not just one half. Jalen Hurts, his game of the season, 326 and 3 touchdowns. They beat a good Vikings team, and Vikings probably have to make a quarterback decision here soon, too.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles still can't run the ball. I mean, go figure. The Vikings figured out how to stop the tush push, but they forgot how to stop Jalen Hurts throwing downfield to A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. So I think the Eagles just have to accept this. They might be more of a passing team going forward. I mean, Barkley just can't get going. The interior of their offensive line hasn't played all that well. Hurts, if people are going to copycat the Vikings and try to stop the short yardage stuff with Hurts, then they might have to just chuck it. But they should be comfortable doing that. Hurts did that in the Super Bowl. He can do it plenty with the receivers he has. So I think this is the Eagles kind of have to adapt and go with that identity going forward. They get the Giants this week, which is very interesting. A quick rematch of a kind of a shocking loss from a couple weeks ago. So I would expect in this game they'll be a lot more aggressive and try to take down the Giants that way.
We have 2 games on Monday night tonight, Vinny. We have the Buccaneers and the Lions are 5.5-point favorites, total 53.5. We have the Seahawks, a short favorite against the Texans. Of course, they didn't play this weekend, so they play tonight. 41.5 is that game. We got about a minute, so if you want to pick one of the 2, maybe stronger opinions you have, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I think I would just go the Lions at home. I mean, they need a win badly. I mean, look at the Packers, what they're doing. The Bears are hot. I mean, they got to get going. So I think the Lions take care of business against the Buccaneers. I like that number a little bit better. And maybe Seattle might be inspired by the Mariners. They come out, fly a little bit at home. People are watching both games. So that's happened before. So I think baseball, football, synergy there in Seattle as well.
Yeah, Seattle is the capital of the sports universe right now. Thanks again, Vinny, for coming on.
All right. Thanks, Greg.
We'll be right back with the Sports Grid Sound Off.
Watching Tua Tagovailoa's post-game press conferences where he basically is like, yeah, I'm getting paid, deal with it. By the way, how's the team? Nobody shows up to meetings, players-only meetings, people skip out. Nobody cares around here, and we lost again. Tua threw 3 interceptions. Yes, he's part of the problem. James Franklin got fired from Penn State, we'll talk about later. When is McDaniels getting shown the door? This team is ridiculous, Joe.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Tell the coordinators what you want. I just don't get it. I don't. These coaches are so chummy with each other that they don't want to throw their guy under the bus. You're getting paid the $10 million. He's not. Take a rein and change the game plan. Right. If it's not working and the offensive coordinator is not getting it done, you need to have input.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
You love this segment. You nicknamed this segment. You sort of put your mark on it with the rats with the cash.
There's rats.
Right? And they're the garbage games. Although one of the games...
What are you saying, rats hang out in garbage? What's wrong with
you? Yeah, they do. Hang out in New York City. You'll see it.
A lot of rats in New York City. That's the way it is, man. Hey, we don't want to throw out any names out there. Exactly.
Philly, too. Yeah, we don't talk about that.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
After the first week of football, who'd have thought Alabama would be right back on the top? After a couple losses, Texas would have a chance to be back where they are. And we've all kind of watched Texas A&M and Ole Miss kind of jump right in the hunt. And, that Texas A&M's kind of become my dark horse because they can beat you offensively and they can beat you defensively.
The Bowden Blitz, only on SportsGrid.
Some early blowouts in the National Football League on Sunday, including Kansas City dismantling the Las Vegas Raiders and the Cleveland Browns taking care of the Miami Dolphins. And then, of course, we have the New York Jets, the only winless team in the NFL. So let's go around the league as we take care of the business that is the NFL in the Sports Grid Sound Off. All right, let's begin in Kansas City. Chiefs offense seemingly all the way back. 31 points against the Las Vegas Raiders. So how many points did the Raiders score in return? That would be 0. Now, I understand some of the issue is Brock Bowers banged up, Jacoby Myers banged up, their offensive line. But it really doesn't explain how inept the offense has been for Las Vegas this season, seemingly struggling every single game, including wins, including last week too. So if you're looking for answers, let's turn to the head coach, Pete Carroll, who tried to give some of them for this performance, 31-0 on the losing side.
This was a game that Ned didn't see coming. We had prepared really well. We were tuned into it. And I couldn't imagine that the guys that weren't able to play in this game would make that much of a factor. I just didn't feel that in our preparation. But they're a terrific team. They did everything like they do, and they played really well in all phases and kept us totally at bay. We couldn't make first down and couldn't get off the field, and they just did like they do. And so when we have a lot of work to do, and we have a lot of catching up to do, and we got to get our guys back. The key guys that missed the game are key guys on our football team, and we weren't able to overcome that. And it seems like there was a factor in there. We were trying our ass off to get first downs and trying to get off the field. They had a bunch of third and maybe half dozen third and threes or less, and they converted most all of those. And it just keeps them out there and keeps all those good players having another shot at you. And we needed to play differently to have that chance. And so today, this is, to me, this is not like the statement of whatever. This is just we got to realize what we're up against, and we got to get our guys back, and we got to play the game well, and we have to get back on track.
Pete Carroll's been through this before with other teams in the NFL. Feeling is probably they'll give him some time to get things turned around, but the organization definitely has to be asking themselves why they gave Geno Smith a long-term contract with guaranteed money that's going to run through several years. Meanwhile, the Dolphins could be asking themselves the same thing. They signed Tua Tagovailoa last offseason to a massive contract extension that's going to pay him amongst the top quarterbacks in the National Football League. Yesterday, the offense imploded, and the Dolphins are now 1-6. And even Tua, who seemingly had a lot of answers for last week's game, which included meetings, gave his explanation for what happened in the blowout to the Browns.
Yeah, I would say just the execution aspect of it for us, speaking offensively. I think that was a big deal with us within the first half, and then kind of trickled its head in the second half as well. And then that's when the turnovers for me started to show up as well. You can't do that, and you can't expect to win games that way too. I would say they're a really good defense, but I think a lot of it was, we shot ourselves in the foot, hurting ourselves with penalties, going out there, the alignment of things. Do we know where we're supposed to be? Are we on the same page with communication to the receivers? Things of that nature. But they're a really good defense. So I can't give that they are the best defense that I faced or not, but they're a really good defense.
This go from bad to worse. That would be specifically the New York Jets. They're not 1-6. They're now 0-7 after the loss to the Panthers, and Aaron Glenn is yet to win a game as head coach in New York.
When it comes to the game, obviously disappointed. Another low-scoring game where the defense did a hell of a job, holding this team to 13 points, getting a good amount of 3 and outs. But obviously not good enough. We gave too many points to allow them to win the game. Offensively, we have a lot of work to do, and that speaks for itself. We all know that. But the only thing we can do is go back to work. It's the only thing we can do. Now, I understand the nature of the quarterback change. Listen, we needed a spark. At that time, I felt it was the right time to do it. Obviously, it was a tough situation for both of those guys, but it was my call. It was my call, and I felt it was the right time to do it. So when it goes into the next week, I'm not ready to sit here and say what's going to happen with next week with our quarterbacks, but I would say this. That's something I have to look at.
All right. I don't know where to look at if you're the Jets at this point. We're going to look at Jacob Kamaker from USA Today. He'll be back with us next, breaking down the NFL. Don't go away.
Have you been watching Tua Tagovailoa's post-game press conferences where he basically is like, yeah, I'm getting paid, deal with it. By the way, how's the team? Nobody shows up to meetings, players-only meetings, people skip out. Nobody cares around here, and we lost again. Tua threw 3 interceptions. Yes, he's part of the problem. James Franklin got fired from Penn State, we'll talk about later. When is McDaniels getting shown the door? This team is ridiculous, Joe.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Tell the coordinators what you want. I just don't get it. I don't. These coaches are so chummy with each other that they don't want to throw their guy under the bus. You're getting paid the $10 million. He's not. Take a rein and change the game plan.
Right.
If it's not working and the offensive coordinator is not getting it done, you need to have input.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
You love this segment. You nicknamed this segment. You sort of put your mark on it with the rats with the cash.
There's rats.
Right? And they're the
cash.
Garbage games.
Garbage
Although
games.
one of the games...
What are you saying, rats hang out in garbage? What's wrong
Yeah,
with
they
you?
do. Hang out in New York City. You'll see it.
A lot of rats in New York City. That's the way it is, man. Hey, we don't want to throw out any
Philly
names
too.
out there. Exactly.
Philly
We
too.
don't wanna throw out any
We don't
names out
talk
there.
about that.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
After the first week of football, who'd have thought Alabama would be right back on the top? After a couple losses, Texas would have a chance to be back where they are. And we've all kind of watched Texas A&M and Ole Miss kind of jump right in the hunt. And, that Texas A&M's kind of become my dark horse because they can beat you offensively and they can beat you defensively.
The Bowden Blitz, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Let's bring in Jacob Kamaker from USA Today to recap some of the games in the NFL. And we're going to start, Jacob, off with the biggest surprise in the NFL this season. And looking at the upcoming schedule, could even be a bigger surprise. The New England Patriots appear to be destined for the NFL playoffs. Mike Vrabel goes into Tennessee. It looked like it was going to be a competitive game for a half. And then all of a sudden, the Patriots just run wild, 31-13 in this game. They've got a starting quarterback in Drake May, who appears to be the quarterback of the future. The schedule has not hurt them at all. Let's be honest. It's been wild how many bad teams that they've been playing, but you can only play who they give you, and the Patriots have made the most of that.
Right, and you mentioned the schedule. The schedule is going to be easy. That was always, if you were going to back the Patriots this year, it was partly because of the schedule. But Drake May has taken a massive step forward in his second season. Patriots have done well to kind of build up the offensive line a little bit around him. And, adding Stephon Diggs and seeing Kayshon Boutte take that step forward has really unlocked the deep threat potential of this offense, especially with Drake May. May did something against the Titans that Tom Brady never did during his time with the Patriots. He completed more than 90% of his passes, set the franchise record for completion percentage in a game. So, we're talking about a guy who's playing not only well, but very efficiently. So he's hard to stop both through the air and on the ground. So as long as he keeps playing like this, especially against weaker competition, Patriots are going to be a team that racks up a lot of wins, and they're going to be a thorn in the Bills' side as they kind of go for that AFC East title. I mean, I think the Bills will eventually get back on track, but just with the strength of schedule alone, the Patriots are going to have a shot at that, Craig.
Yeah, I would think so. And May yesterday was fantastic. 21 of 23, which is 91% in terms of completion percentage, which is the highest since good old Tom Brady back in 2009, 2014. He was fantastic during those years, and May is, certainly dialing it back. And you mentioned the schedule. The Browns, the Falcons, the Bucks, the Jets, and the Bengals. And at this point, even 2 and 3 would put them in a good spot. Patriots are just off. They've banked all these wins. I mean, look, obviously you look at that and you think it's 3 and 2 or 4 and 1, but you never know. It's the NFL. But either way, as long as they don't blow all those games, Jacob, they're going to make the playoffs this season. Meanwhile, the Panthers get another win. They're another team that has been surprising. I don't think anybody really trusts them, but they win again 13-6 on the strength of the defense and the running game. And now we got news this morning that Bryce Young is going to miss this week's game, and it's going to be Andy Dalton. We saw that play out last year. Dalton wasn't great. They brought Bryce Young back in, and he did very well. But does the win over the Jets count, Jacob? I see the standings. It looks like it does. Okay, so the win does count, even though it's against the Jets. I mean, Carolina's not really going anywhere, are they? I mean, what are they going to be, 9-8, 8-9, something like that?
Yeah, this strikes me as a team that's not going to quite make the playoffs, but they're going to be a little feisty. There are going to be some games that they're competitive in. I mean, we saw them blow out the Falcons, and look, the Falcons are one of the most up and down teams in the NFL this season. It's hard to predict what they'll do on a weekly basis at any point, but I've been impressed with what Dave Canales has been able to do in his second season with the Panthers there. You know, he hasn't really brought Bryce Young to that next level, but he's making some small strides. And they've found that formula for winning to lean on Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard in the run game. And Jairo Evero has the defense playing very, very well at present. So, you know, all the young additions they've made on that side of the ball are kind of starting to come together. So Panthers, they're going to be able to beat weaker competition like the Jets. Now, they have a test coming up against the Buffalo Bills, who are coming off a bye week. So, you know, I think that'll be a good litmus test for really how competitive are they. It wouldn't surprise me if they get blown out in that game. You know, and we're all kind of like, all right, yeah, the Panthers are going to be more of this 8-9 type team. But I do think it speaks to the fact that Canales has this team trending in the right direction, that they were able to kind of beat up on the Jets and make Justin Fields and Tyrod Taylor look pretty terrible. Both Taylor and Fields posted QBR, ESPN's QB rating stat. They both ranked, I believe, 13 or lower, and an average grading QBR is 50 out of 100. So that's how bad the quarterback play is for the Jets right now.
It seems like they may go to Tyrod Taylor. We'll find out soon. Meanwhile, Jonathan Taylor has been on absolute fire this season. 3 more touchdowns in the Colts win against the Chargers. Taylor, by the way, has 3 touchdowns in one game 3 times. The Jets only have 3 touchdowns in a game twice. 38-24, the Colts beat the Chargers. Very surprising result for me. Look, I understand the Chargers could win or lose the game, but this game really wasn't close. And Indianapolis is surging at the right time on the strength of that running game. It's really giving more time for Daniel Jones. I mean, I think, and by the way, let me mention Tyler Warren, number 1 tight end in the NFL. I mean, what a great draft pick. So kudos to the organization of the Colts. They're going to win some awards, I'm going to guess, Jacob, at the end of the season, because they've done it through great running back play, drafting right, and their offensive line has been absolutely lights out.
Yeah, absolutely. The strength of this team is their offensive line. And we've said that over the years before. When the Colts have been good, their offensive line has been elite. And that's the case this year. That's why you're seeing Jonathan Taylor have these big games. Obviously, he's very talented, but it helps when you have great blocking in front of you. We saw that last year with Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry having their 2,000-yard seasons behind, or Barkley's 2,000 yards, Henry almost 2,000 yards behind great offensive lines. So Taylor's having a similar type of year this year. And as you mentioned, that's taken pressure off of Daniel Jones, who's a great fit for the Shane Steichen offense. Same with Tyler Warren. He fit like a glove in this scheme and system and what they're trying to do and trying to get the ball kind of over the middle of the field. That's where Daniel Jones is at his best. So credit to Shane Steichen for really building this offense into a juggernaut. They really don't punt much, which I think if you told people coming into the year, like, yeah, Daniel Jones is going to be one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the league and his team's barely going to punt, they would have laughed at you probably. But this was definitely a surprising result. I thought the Chargers were going to be a bit friskier against them. I thought that, you know, the return of Khalil Mack and Denzel Perryman was going to up their defense and just allow them to play a bit better. But I think the Colts are just that good at this point. So I think they're really shaping into a true AFC contender, which seemed unfathomable just a couple of months ago.
Yeah, they're the surprise this season, no doubt. All right, we should not be surprised that the Chiefs have turned things around, but the way that they're doing it is the opposite of last year, was on their strength of running game and defense. This year, Patrick Mahomes is back to who he used to be. 31-0 against the Raiders. This was the easiest blowout of the week. In the end, the Raiders just showed absolutely nothing. Maybe Jacksonville blowout too. They really didn't show anything against the Rams as well. But let's take a look real quick, Jacob, here at the AFC West, where Denver's win still has them atop the division with that crazy comeback against the Giants, and they're slight favorites over KC to win, or the Chiefs are slight favorites over Denver to win the division. So do you think that that is accurate? Is it going to come down to the head-to-head games remaining between these two teams? Because I think it's fair to say at this point, it feels like Denver or KC for the division.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I kind of had them in my preseason projections. I had them both finishing, I believe, 11-6. And I think the tiebreaker ended up going to the Broncos. I had the Broncos winning the division, but it really feels like a coin toss. And I'll be honest about the Broncos. The way they have won games recently hasn't been the most inspiring thing. I kind of came into this year anticipating their defense would be one of the best in the NFL, and it has been, but there have still been some of those like blips on the radar. We saw it against the Colts early in the season. We just talked about how good the Colts are. So, you can write that off as, hey, the Colts are an actually good offense. But, allowing 32 points against the Giants at home isn't a great sign. I know Jackson Dart and Cam Skadaboo both played well, but, that defense should not be having that type of struggle. So I think the Chiefs are rightly favored right now. Patrick Mahomes has them playing at a very high level. Getting Rashee Rice back was huge for their passing offense, just taking a little bit of that extra pressure off Mahomes. And if they trade for another running back, which I think they'll try to do, that could spark their ground game and really give them a well-rounded offense. So I think those odds are right. I know the Chiefs are behind, but this feels like a time Andy Reid's team's just going to go on a long winning streak and have us saying, oh, why did we ever doubt they were Super Bowl contenders still?
Yeah, I agree. Jacob, great stuff as always. Enjoy the games tonight. We'll catch up again next week here on NewsWire. Thanks.
All right, sounds good. Take care, Craig.
Jacob Kamiker from USA Today. Up next, it's our very own Joe Ranieri weighing in on the Dallas Cowboys. In the sun, in that stadium, they ended up pulling out a big win against Washington. How did it happen? I'll tell you next.
After the first week of football, who'd have thought Alabama would be right back on the top? After a couple losses, Texas would have a chance to be back where they are. And we've all kind of watched Texas A&M and Ole Miss kind of jump right in the hunt. And, that Texas A&M's kind of become my dark horse because they can beat you offensively and they can beat you defensively.
The Bowden Blitz, only on SportsGrid.
I apologize to our fans. We need to do better. That's all you need to say, Scott, right? But Tua goes out there, my kids love me. I'm rich. I don't care. You got your dumbass coach coming out here, and we play to win. You got to win the game, and you got to win. And, the Dolphins press conferences make it way worse. If I was a Dolphin fan, I just want to punch these guys in the face.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
This one's for you, Tommy Reynolds. I know you're a Rochester Americans guy, but the big team, the Buffalo Sabres, at home against the listless Rangers. Can we get plus 102? We can in overtime. Knockaroo does it again. Buffalo over the Rangers.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all three Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. Joe Ranieri is with us here on this Monday. He was watching the games yesterday and trying to pick games against the spread. It's been almost impossible in the NFL this season. Wow. Teams just winning when you don't think and you feel good about games until the end. It's been that kind of year, Joe, where this is what we like in the NFL. The parity, the favorites not winning, but it's harder to pick the games, definitely, than ever, I think, in the NFL.
Well, it was funny because yesterday was one of those weeks, Craig, where, cardinal rule is don't expect bad teams to do good things. And that was front and center yesterday, where there was a lot of money being bet on a lot of very bad teams, Craig, yesterday, moving the lines in the wrong direction away from the favorites, and it did not. Expecting bad teams to do good things is not a recipe for success this time of year.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Joe, the one thing that we could ask for a month from now is to get good Thanksgiving Day games. It's not easy with the Cowboys playing on Thanksgiving every year. But I was kind of thinking to myself, Joe, after they beat Washington yesterday, 44-22, I feel like they're going to be relevant on Thanksgiving Day, almost no matter what, right? As long as they're around 500, because it appears that Dallas is going to be in this playoff mix till the end. 44-22, yet another over for the Cowboys. Again, betting the over has just been money in the bank. And I don't care what happened to Jaden Daniels yesterday. Washington was not going to win that game.
No, Washington was not going to win that game, but that was easily the Cowboys' best all-around performance of the season. And we know the offense has been top 10 all year long. I mean, Dak Prescott and the offense, even without CeeDee Lamb, they've carried the load. It's the defense that's been the issue, except for yesterday, where we saw Deron Bland with a pick six. The team had 4 sacks. They were just in the backfield all day long of this Washington team. Now, granted, it wasn't like Jaden Daniels. I think he had guys like you and me to throw to, guys off the practice squad, because they didn't have any receivers active because everyone's hurt on Washington. But the bottom line is, if we're going to take this Cowboys team seriously, and they do have a championship offense, we need to see more all-around effort like we saw yesterday against Washington. And to your point, that would make Thanksgiving very interesting this year.
Definitely so. Daniels, by the way, gave the thumbs up after leaving that blue tent, although he didn't come back in the game. Dan Quinn said that he wanted to return to the game. Who knows what that really will mean going forward for him. The Cowboys win total, by the way, nothing significantly has changed since the beginning of the season. Still right at 7.5. They're projected to be around a 500 team, but we'll take it. I mean, this is more than what you would have expected from the Cowboys, and the games generally are fun. Joe, for Washington, they get Kansas City, Seattle, and Detroit. It just kind of feels like that magical season that they had a year ago is not going to come close to being repeated. They're going to just have to fight to get in the playoffs at this point.
Well, and it's the defense, ironically enough, of Dan Quinn's that's let him down this year. This defense is a mess, Craig. They can't tackle anybody. They can't get off the field. That's the big problem. It's a huge problem for Washington. And listen, if the defense can get off the field, that means Jaden Daniels is going to become a sitting duck, because you're always going to be trying to play from behind. And no McLaurin, no Deebo Samuel. Yeah, they got some issues right now, Washington does.
Yeah, definitely so. Okay, so Arizona takes on Green Bay yesterday. The fans from Wisconsin all flocked to Arizona, and usually they do it in the winter. They were there in full force yesterday. Felt like a Packers home game. 27-23, they rally to win. Josh Jacobs, one of the more underrated players, I would guess, in the NFL, just seems to have a knack for the end zone, scores every time out there. They came back to win, but it was Micah Parsons. He was the difference maker in this one. 3 sacks, 5 tackles, 5 quarterback hits. Packers still very much in play to go all the way. I mean, they're a really good football team. And Arizona, Joe, they're doing great against the spread, right? Like they keep covering, they keep playing these close games, but not having Murray certainly has hurt them, and their running game is non-existent at this point.
Well, I mean, listen, the Packers defense, thank goodness they showed up and played the full game, because in addition to their plane showing up 5 hours late to Arizona because they had all sorts of issues, the offense apparently was still on the plane as well, because the Packers were all out of sorts offensively in that game. And thank goodness for Parsons and that defense, because that's the only reason they had an opportunity to come from behind with a couple of touchdowns in the fourth quarter to get it done. They finally started to figure it out a little bit, but my goodness, escape with a win. They got the win, but this is now 3 consecutive games in a row where I'm scratching my head going, is this Packers team really as good as they were in that week 1 win against Detroit, or are they vulnerable here? The defense is good. The offense scares me here.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, real quick, the division of the NFC North, including the Packers, also includes the Bears and the Lions. We got 3 good teams, it looks like, in this division, not to mention Minnesota. I don't know which direction they're headed, Joe. Maybe you know. But the Bears beat the Saints 26-14. Feels like the Saints are finally cratering here a little bit. Exactly what they thought they would be. This is pretty much what they thought. Just they go on the road and just get hammered usually. Can four teams can't make the playoffs in this division? Can 3?
No, I don't think Minnesota knows what they are, by the way. They can't even figure out who their quarterback is yet. But yeah, no, this is another one of those classic don't expect bad teams to do good things. I'm not sure how long this defense can keep it up here of the Bears. They had another 4 turnovers. I believe that is now plus 14 or plus 15 in this winning streak that they're in the turnover category. That is not sustainable, to say the least, but they finally found a running game with DeAndre Swift as well. So yeah, it looks like Chicago and Detroit and Green Bay seem to be in a battle, but I'm only buying Green Bay and Detroit for now. I'm wait and see on this Chicago team.
Yeah, I would agree, and it should be a fun finish for Chicago. I would agree as well. All right, so Joe, real quick before we go, any position on Monday Night Football?
I think the first game will be a shootout. I think the second game will be like watching paint dry. So if you're expecting points, watch the Tampa-Detroit game, because I'm not sure how many points we're getting with Houston and Seattle.
Yeah, would agree. All right, Joe, thanks again for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Let's go.
All right, we'll take a quick time out. We'll be back with Rick Miller weighing in on the Billy Napier era coming to an end in Gainesville. Don't go away.
Have you been watching Tua Tagovailoa's post-game press conferences where he basically is like, yeah, I'm getting paid, deal with it. By the way, how's the team? Nobody shows up to meetings, players-only meetings, people skip out. Nobody cares around here, and we lost again. Tua threw 3 interceptions. Yes, he's part of the problem. James Franklin got fired from Penn State, we'll talk about later. When is McDaniels getting shown the door? This team is ridiculous, Joe.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Tell the coordinators what you want. I just don't get it. I don't. These coaches are so chummy with each other that they don't want to throw their guy under the bus. You're getting paid the $10 million. He's not. Take a rein and change the game plan. Right. If it's not working and the offensive coordinator is not getting it done, you need to have input.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
You love this segment. You nicknamed this segment. You sort of put your mark on it with the rats with the cash.
There's rats.
Right? And they're the garbage games. Although one of the games...
What are you saying, rats hang out in garbage? What's wrong with
you? Yeah, they do. Hang out in New York City. You'll see it.
There's a lot of rats in New York City. That's the way it is, man. Hey, we don't want to throw out any names out there. Exactly.
Philly, too. Yeah, we don't talk about that.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
After the first week of football, who'd have thought Alabama would be right back on the top? After a couple losses, Texas would have a chance to be back where they are. And we've all kind of watched Texas A&M and Ole Miss kind of jump right in the hunt. And, that Texas A&M's kind of become my dark horse because they can beat you offensively and they can beat you defensively.
The Bowden Blitz, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Well, several years of losing did not please the faithful at the University of Florida. 22-23 record for Billy Napier, and he has shown the door after a win. That is rare in college football during the regular season that a coach would win and get fired. But if you saw the game between Florida and Mississippi State, I guess you would understand. So after 3+ seasons and 1 bowl win and 5-17, let me show you that one again. 5-17 versus ranked teams. Billy Napier is out, and he'll be just fine. He'll get another gig somewhere else. He'll be an offensive coordinator, perhaps. By all accounts, everybody really likes the guy. But the bottom line is the University of Florida is a very, very big college in the Southeastern Conference. They've had a lot of success in the past. They're just not going to stand for that sort of record. So who becomes the next head coach? Where do they turn? What happens the rest of the season? The Gators still have several games to play in a couple of months. And even potentially at the end of the season, who knows what they'll be playing for. So let's check in with our friend Rich Sermonillo as he weighs in on Napier's end of an era in Gainesville and who potentially could be next.
Week 8 in college football was filled with chaos, similar to 2007. I don't know if you remember that far back, but that was the wildest and wackiest October and November upsets week after week. Not sure if we're going to go down that road, but it certainly looked like it in week 8. 4 top 10 teams lose. The top group of 5 program, Memphis, falls as a 3-touchdown favorite against UAB. So what is the fallout? What can we see in terms of conference odds and then also the Heisman race? Now, everything began Friday night. Miami loses to Louisville. Big surprise. Carson Beck, 4 interceptions. He is completely out of the Heisman race at that point. It really bumps up 2 quarterbacks, Ty Simpson, Alabama, Fernando Mendoza, Indiana. Mendoza will not have a lot of high-profile opportunities. Simpson will down the stretch. I think he's the better bet right now. Alabama playing extremely well. 4 straight wins over ranked opponents. First time that has ever happened in SEC history when a bye is not involved. So Alabama, Ohio State, those are your 2 favorites for a national championship. Now, conference-wise, Miami loses. What does it mean to the ACC? Well, I wouldn't overreact just yet. I think Miami is still the most talented team in the ACC, but Georgia Tech, Virginia, SMU, those are the 3 ACC teams without a conference loss. Those are the teams that control their destiny. Miami does not play Georgia Tech, by the way. Now, Big 12, Texas Tech falls in the desert against Arizona State. Big surprise, heavy favorite. They were trucking every opponent by 20 plus. Lose to the Sun Devils. Sam Leavitt comes back, has a good game. What does it mean for the Big 12? Well, BYU, which shockingly continues to win, beats Utah in the Holy War. And Cincinnati, those are the only 2 teams without a Big 12 loss. But much like the ACC, I think Texas Tech's still the most talented team. I still expect them to rebound, get off the mat, and win the Big 12 wide open. Now, what can we expect from the ACC? Talked a little bit about the Miami situation. SEC also wide open. You've got 8 teams with 1 conference loss or less. The only undefeated teams, Alabama and Texas A&M, will not play in the regular season. Craig, I think A&M is really not getting a lot of attention. It's the one program, a lot of talk about Alabama, Georgia, huge win over Ole Miss. Nobody really talking about A&M. But right now, they're the top team in terms of the SEC rankings. Big surprise for Mike Elko, Coach of the Year candidate there as well. The chalkiest of conferences, Big Ten. I don't think there's any value. Ohio State and or Indiana would have to lose twice for Oregon to get back into the mix. I don't see that happening. Ohio State too tough. Indiana's schedule too soft. So I think it'll be Indiana, Ohio State in the Big Ten title game. And then the game of the week for me, a lot of great games in the SEC, but watch South Florida at Memphis. Again, Memphis loses last week. South Florida had been red hot, and we talked about them in the early going. Big upsets of Florida and Boise State. They lose to Miami. They fall off the radar. But last 4 games, they've scored at least 48 points. Long shot fringe contender for the Heisman, by the way, Craig. Byron Brown, the quarterback from South Florida. South Florida, Memphis, winner takes a big step towards the playoffs.
Should be, I think, the biggest hire in college football, whoever goes to the University of Florida. We've got to take a quick time out here on NewsWire. When we come back, we'll be joined by our SportsGrid insider, Adam Kaplan, who weighs in on his circle of trust in the National Football League. We'll be right back after these quick messages. Don't go away.
Have you been watching Tua Tagovailoa's post-game press conferences where he basically is like, yeah, I'm getting paid, deal with it. By the way, how's the team? Nobody shows up to meetings, players-only meetings, people skip out. Nobody cares around here, and we lost again. Tua threw 3 interceptions. Yes, he's part of the problem. James Franklin got fired from Penn State, we'll talk about later. When is McDaniels getting shown the door? This team is ridiculous, Joe.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Tell the coordinators what you want. I just don't get it. I don't. These coaches are so chummy with each other that they don't want to throw their guy under the bus. You're getting paid the $10 million. He's not. Take a rein and change the game plan. Right. If it's not working and the offensive coordinator is not getting it done, you need to have input.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
You love this segment. You nicknamed this segment. You sort of put your mark on it with the rats with the cash.
There's rats.
Right, and they're the garbage games. Although one of the games...
What are you saying, rats hang out in garbage? What's wrong with you?
Yeah, they do. Hang out in New York City. You'll see it.
A lot of rats in New York City. That's the way it is, man. Hey, we don't want to throw out any names out there. Exactly.
Philly, too. Yeah, we don't talk about that.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
After the first week of football, who'd have thought Alabama would be right back on the top? After a couple losses, Texas would have a chance to be back where they are. And we've all kind of watched Texas A&M and Ole Miss kind of jump right in the hunt. And, that Texas A&M's kind of become my dark horse because they can beat you offensively and they can beat you defensively.
The Bowden Blitz, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We got 30 minutes with our SportsGrid insider Adam Kaplan. We'll dive into Monday night's football games. We got 2 of them tonight, and we'll also recap everything in the NFL. Adam also has his thoughts on some of the good teams in the NFL who have joined his circle of trust. That's from Meet the Parents movie. I think that's too probably far back for some, even though for most it's really not. It was only about 15 years ago. But anyway, Adam, great to have you here. And hey, look, you'll be covering the Super Bowl coming up in February with the Indianapolis Colts, like we all thought, representing the AFC this season, right?
I'll tell you, Craig, especially for bettors out there. So this is a team, more often than not, you can trust. The Colts, look, their only loss, and we talked about this on NewsWire weeks ago. Let's see how they do on the road at the Rams. They lost 27-20 in week 4. Just be competitive against a team like the Rams, and they were, right? So they're getting the job done every week. And the way you set that up was, it's true. No one really knew about the Colts. They've been so mediocre over the past 8 seasons under general manager Chris Ballard. When Andrew Luck suddenly retired, they haven't gotten it right at quarterback. They tried Anthony Richardson. Obviously, it hasn't worked out. Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz, list goes on and on and on. And it just has not worked out like they had hoped. And Daniel Jones gets a high-end backup contract worth $14 million. That's not starter money. That's low-end starter, high-end backup money. And he's been phenomenal. In fact, now, again, we don't vote in week 7, okay, or after week 7. It's the MVP or most improved awards are regular season only. You don't take into account in any voting through the playoffs. So Daniel Jones right now, and I vote in 2 polls. One of them is the Pro Football Writers Association, which is, by the way, the deepest group. Like, they have so many different awards. Daniel Jones is not only the most improved offensive player. If they not only win that division, if they have the best record in the NFC, this continues, you're going to have to vote for him high up there in MVP voting. There's no question about it. He's been phenomenal. He's never been this consistent. Now, it helps that he's got a running game, and there's no doubt about it. When you look at Jonathan Taylor, he's back after all the injury problems and contract issues. And they're a team that no one had, as you set it up, Craig, no one saw the Colts like this. How could you possibly see it? No. Too many questions, but they've answered all of them.
Yeah, and Executive of the Year is the easiest of all. I mean, Ballard brings in Daniel Jones, he drafts Tyler Warren, and all of a sudden the offense looks like the 49ers out of nowhere. So I would agree there. All right, so real quick, let's go to the other ones. Bucks, Chiefs, Patriots, and Rams. All teams over 500 here. You feel confident that will continue?
Let's go to the Bucks, who play tonight, and they will be at Detroit. We'll preview that game in the second segment. But they've surprised me. I didn't see this, despite all of their injuries at corner, but mostly at wide receiver. They're not only super competitive at 5-1, they have one of the best records in the National Football League. Didn't see this. Got to give Todd Bowles and his staff credit, Jason Light, the general manager, credit as well, because he drafts it well and they develop very well. They have a really good coaching staff. You know what's interesting? They keep losing offensive coordinators, but now they have Josh Grizzard, one of the youngest offensive coordinators in his mid-30s. He's done a great job with Baker Mayfield, who now is one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League. Again, who knew? 2 years ago, it really started for him, and I give Jason Light credit for bringing him in and extending his contract and extended it again. He's terrific. So everything's working out for them, and this goes to show you, if you don't complain about things you have no control over, injuries, just continue to coach your players, you could be very, very good. And Atlanta, by the way, they're out of my circle of trust. I mean, they look like they were coming on. Forget about it. The Bucs are the kings of the NFC South. Forget about Atlanta. You got it. You with all the problems that the Niners have with injury, particularly on defense, offense too, but defense especially, with Nick Bosa out for the season, Fred Warner. The Falcons have to win that game last night. They didn't show up.
Yeah, agreed. All right, let's go to some of the second-tier teams potentially that could jump into the first tier. I wish we had enough time to do all these teams. You got the Lions, 49ers, Packers, and Eagles. Every team has at least 4 wins here. Packers, of course, have a tie. They had a tie earlier in the season. And, certainly the Lions, great at home, maybe not as much on the road. But, I mean, I guess I could ask you here about the 49ers, Adam. It's because it's just been a juggernaut of an organization, even in a year last year, where they had their worst year in a long time. They're always seemingly treading water, and as long as they're healthy, they're going to be in the mix.
Well, that's the problem, is as long as they're healthy. But at some point, and George Kittle just returned, but at some point, not having Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, okay, for the season, they're both out for the season. The 2 best defensive players, 2 of the best players at their position in the National Football League, it's going to show up. Now, they got to play the Rams again. There will be some tough teams in the second half of their schedule. They're holding steady. But the Rams in that division are going to give them, boy, what a battle this is for the NFC West. It's going to be super tight. Now, we question how good those teams were to start the season. Not anymore. The Rams have exceeded my expectations. They're certainly in my circle of trust. The Lions, it's simply their secondary. We're going to talk about them in the second half of our segments here, and they're beat up physically in the secondary. You got the Brian Branch 1 game suspension, that is. So that does concern me. But they're really well coached now. You talked about them being on the road. They've shown they can win outdoors. There's no question about that. But that's the situation, Craig. At some point, and it could happen tonight because Mike Evans should play, if they could get Ibuka playing tonight, that's a game, and it's -6. You saw my picks this week. I like the Bucs plus the 6. That number's way too high. I got to believe that comes down for smart bettors. That's way too high. I don't see the Bucs. If they lose, I don't see them losing by 7 points or more.
The Chargers have now lost 3 out of their last 4. The Commanders have fallen back. They've had Daniels in. He's been out. And, obviously, look, I'll be the first one to tell you, I can't sit here and tell you after watching Jacksonville yesterday that I'm confident that this is a team that's going deep into the postseason like I thought at the beginning of the year. I mean, they didn't do anything yesterday. I mean, Matthew Stafford's numbers were gaudy with 5 touchdowns. That's just because Jacksonville just kept not turning the ball over, but on downs. They just couldn't convert.
I mean, you're talking about a touchdown from Matthew Stafford around every 5 or 6 pass attempts. That's ridiculous. I'll say this. Under Anthony Campanelli, the Jaguars defensive coordinator, he's changed their scheme. He's done a phenomenal job. But look, they've hit the skids here. They're not playing well right now. The Colts, for future bettors, the Colts are an absolute lock. Unless, again, with an asterisk, unless they suffer a bad injury, a.k.a. quarterback, they're going to win that division. I said this last week. They're the kings of that division. I don't buy into the Jaguars. They have no excuse. They have no injury problems. They're falling back to reality that they got off to that great start. See, this is why you have to be careful early in the season. I've always said on SportsGrid for 6 years now, give me at least 4 weeks till I start backing or going away from teams, because you saw the Patriots, right, Craig, who come out of nowhere this season. The Pats lost at home to the Raiders in week 1. So if you're a future bettor, you could have got the Pats so well at high plus money. Why? Because the Pats lost to the Raiders. The Raiders are terrible. But you've got to let the situations play out before you go crazy either way.
Panthers are playing well, but I feel like they just took a big shot. If I'm reading these reports that Dalton is back at quarterback, and look, there are some that are going to make the claim that there's not a huge drop off from Young to Dalton. But I mean, look, the Panthers are eking out these wins on the strength of their running game the last few weeks. A win over the Dolphins, a win over Dallas, a win over the Jets. They're not going to win much with Dalton, but they've made improvements over last year. And it's unfortunate because I thought even though Young wasn't playing his best football, the Panthers finish, Adam, let's say 9-8. It's a big success.
It is. Heck, if they're even 8 or 9 now. The ankle injury looked like it was going to be a multiple game anyway with Bryce Young, so that's a concern. Andy Dalton's one of these guys. He can get on a roll. He's an aggressive thrower. I'll say this about the Panthers. Dan Morgan and the former general manager Scott Fitter, one thing that they've done there is add big-time offensive talent. Ted McMillan's coming on. Sanders, the tight end. I know they're very high on him. He just came back from his injury. Rico Dowdle's come out of nowhere to really help their running game, and Chuba Hubbard returned from his calf injury. They're beat up on the offensive line, but they did have that incredible win over the Falcons, though. I mean, when they completely shut them down. But, yeah, they're ahead of schedule. I'd agree with you there. The Panthers, they're not going to be a playoff team.
Yeah, I would agree. I just think that maybe next year is the year, but still need to get more weapons. And by the way, I still like Chuba Hubbard. I know that Dowdle has played great, but whether Hubbard can help them or help another team, I understand a lot of the fantasy owners are upset that Hubbard's involved. He was really, really good before he got hurt, too. All right, let's do this, Adam. Let's take a quick timeout. We'll dive into what the Eagles may do over the next few weeks. And also trade deadline is coming up, so some other topics to talk about. You're watching NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We'll be right back.
Have you been watching Tua Tagovailoa's post-game press conferences where he basically like, yeah, I'm getting paid, deal with it. By the way, how's the team? Nobody shows up to meetings, players-only meetings, people skip out. Nobody cares around here, and we lost again. Tua threw 3 interceptions. Yes, he's part of the problem. James Franklin got fired from Penn State, we'll talk about later. When is McDaniels getting shown the door? This team is ridiculous, Joe.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Tell the coordinators what you want. I just don't get it. I don't. These coaches are so chummy with each other that they don't want to throw their guy under the bus. You're getting paid the $10 million. He's not. Take a rein and change the game plan. Right. If it's not working and the offensive coordinator is not getting it done, you need to have input.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
You love this segment. You nicknamed this segment. You sort of put your mark on it with the rats with the cash.
There's rats.
Right? And they're the garbage games. Although one of the games...
What are you saying, rats hang out in garbage? What's wrong with
you? Yeah, they do. Hang out in New York City. You'll see it.
A lot of rats in New York City. That's the way it is, man. Hey, we don't want to throw out any names out there. Exactly.
Philly, too. Yeah, we don't talk about that.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
After the first week of football, who'd have thought Alabama would be right back on the top? After a couple losses, Texas would have a chance to be back where they are. And we've all kind of watched Texas A&M and Ole Miss kind of jump right in the hunt. And, that Texas A&M's kind of become my dark horse because they can beat you offensively and they can beat you defensively.
The Bowden Blitz, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Adam Kaplan with us for the next 15 minutes. We've got the trade deadline coming up and maybe some transactional news as well. Adam, the Eagles will always be involved on trade deadline day, which is about 2 weeks away, a little bit more than that. But maybe they don't need to make a trade. I remember earlier this season seeing Brandon Graham on the field. I believe it was their first home game. Everyone was cheering for him, his retirement. What's going on here? All of a sudden, he's looked at their record and said, wait a second, I can take another run here. This reminds me of Ndamukong Suh. For how many years did Suh just wait to see which team was going to be good, and then he would sign with them?
Well, it's funny you say that because 2 years ago, around now, Ndamukong Suh, and Linval Joseph signed with the Eagles. Good call by you. They both waited. They tried to make a Super Bowl run. Unfortunately, things collapsed. They fired reassigned the defensive coordinator, Sean Desai, and moved Matt Patricia, who was a senior assistant, to the defensive coordinator position, but it didn't work. But fast forward to 2 years in front of us here. So, yeah, with Brandon Graham, he's around the club a lot. They've been in touch with him. People pointed to Zadarius Smith's retirement, but that's the last part of it. No, it really started when Nolan Smith, ironically, the same injury that Brandon Graham has. What happened with Nolan Smith was he injured the triceps in the Super Bowl, had surgery, right? Brandon Graham also re-injured his triceps. He had surgery earlier in the season, then came back for the Super Bowl, knew that he could tear it again. He did. He had surgery. He's been working out. I've talked to people who know him, who've been around him. He looks great. And barring contract snag, this should happen. Now, this is crazy. So to start last week, they had 5 edge rushers. They were down to 3 to end the game. Azeez Ojulari had the concussion, unfortunately. You mentioned you mentioned Zadarius Smith, who retired. They were down to 3 edge rushers, which is why Jihad Campbell moved to the edge in that game, which Vic Fangio, their defensive coordinator, said he didn't want to do. But Jihad Campbell went to Alabama as an edge rusher. So they've got to do something. Now, the trade deadline, multiple teams I've talked to said the Eagles are one of the teams that are in on edge rushers, but there's so many teams looking for an edge rusher. The guy that most likely will be traded, I never say never, but I feel like it's going to happen. Bradley Chubb makes the most sense with the Dolphins.
Right, yeah.
High character guy on the backside of his career, clearly could add something. He's actually done a good job this season. He's had a lot of injuries, but good football player, and he could certainly help a team that's going to go deep to the playoffs.
Yeah, Breece Hall for me would be another one. The Jets
no
business hanging on to him. Yeah, at some point. Yep. All right, so the Buccaneers take on the Lions tonight, and the Bucs are pretty banged up on offense, and this is going to go right down to game time decisions on a lot of players. Rachaad White, who was the starter before Bucky Irving became Bucky Irving, has done a really nice job, by the way, Adam, while he's been out. Bucky Irving's going to be out. White will be in, it looks like, for this week, and then who knows going forward. Mike Evans could play. All of a sudden, Emeka Ibuka practiced over the weekend, so he could play. The only one we think is out for sure is Chris Godwin. And let's just be honest, it doesn't really matter, with all due respect, because this Tez Johnson is good and Shepard plays okay. As long as Baker Mayfield plays, then he's going to make somebody else good, almost like Winston did a few years ago. But Winston threw a lot of picks. Baker does not. Lions coming in have some injuries, too. The line is 6. You see 5.5 there. It's 6.5 in some other spots, total of 53.5. I know you like Tampa Bay here. All I would say is that the line looks too fishy to me, and that's my concern here, is that something's up here, That's my concern.
So when you look at this game, Craig, okay, first of all, if you looked at the team that's in better physical shape, it would be the Buccaneers. They're actually very healthy on defense. But the problem is, as you mentioned, now Bucky Irving is their lead back. The reason why they transitioned to him, now I know he's a smaller back. He's somewhere around 200 pounds. He's got more explosion than Rachaad White, who's on the final year of his rookie deal. Rachaad White is a good pass protector. He's good on checkdowns, but he's not explosive. So they don't have Irving's explosiveness. But they expect something in pregame warmups. They expect Evans to play tonight. Now, Mike Evans has had chronic hamstring problems for 10 years. They come on, they come back. He knows how to handle them. They're expecting, barring anything unforeseen here, for him to play tonight. That'll be big. Ibuka, he needs to get through pregame warmups. But the fact that he's actually has a shot to play is a great story, because they were very concerned last week. And Chris Godwin out with a fibula injury. So what you'll see is Sterling Shepard replace him in the slot. Now for Detroit, almost their entire secondary is out. Both safety Branch, we mentioned the first segment, out with the suspension. Kerry Joseph, who got hurt last week with the knee injury, boy, he's really good. Terrion Arnold with a shoulder injury, he started working this past week, but he's out. This is killer. And you described it well with Baker Mayfield. When I vote for MVP, it's, did you make the players around you, if your quarterback, better? And the answer is yes. We could not have seen this when he was drafted by the Browns in 2018. Yes, and they had all sorts of problems with the coaches there. What wasn't great for him when he was drafted first pick overall. But you're talking right now as a top 5, top 7 passer, Baker Mayfield. He's phenomenal. He makes everyone around him better. Yeah, and you guys saw my picks as I sent them yesterday. When I saw this number, Craig, I'm like, this is just wrong. They should be a 3 to 3.5 point dog. If you consider everything, the way that they're playing, the Lions have much worse injury problems. The Bucs win anywhere. I don't care that this game's indoor. That I get it. The lines are better at home, but you have to consider the injury factor when you're analyzing these games, whether it's for fantasy or if you're wagering here. But I thought yesterday there were some mispriced lines, and we'll see if I'm right. But the Bucs should have no problems covering this game.
And then tonight you have a very rare occasion in sports. The only thing rarer would be as if the Mariners were playing at home tonight against the Blue Jays. But, I mean, you have Seattle's football team playing on Monday Night Football. You have their baseball team playing in Game 7 of the American League Championship Series. I'm assuming that's not going to impact at all here. Fans or football fans are still going to go, and baseball fans are just going to stay home and watch. The line is 3, total 41.5. Both these teams I would describe, Adam, as a little bit sleepy in the playoff chase. I could see both of them making it. I could see both of them not. But they're just not. Neither team is getting a lot of attention. Maybe that's what I would allude to here.
See, I don't buy the Texans. Yeah, they had 2 wins lately, but those are against subpar teams, and they have trouble scoring. They have not fixed their passing game issues. Seattle's a pretty good team. I still believe they're going to be a wild card team. That was one of my wild card teams in the NFC to start the season. That's a short number, though. They're only -3. That's one of those weird lines you go, how could they not be 5 or 6? I do like Seattle to cover that number, but I don't love that number, to be honest with you.
All right, Adam, we'll see how it works out tonight. Thanks again for coming on NewsWire, and we'll catch up again soon. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back next, where is the next destination for former Penn State head coach James Franklin? Also a vote of confidence for another college football head coach. And the accolades are in for a Blue Jays pitcher. You're watching NewsWire on SportsGrid. We'll wrap it up next.
Have you been watching Tua Tagovailoa's post-game press conferences where he basically like, yeah, I'm getting paid, deal with it. By the way, how's the team? Nobody shows up to meetings, players-only meetings, people skip out. Nobody cares around here, and we lost again. Tua threw 3 interceptions. Yes, he's part of the problem. James Franklin got fired from Penn State, we'll talk about later. When is McDaniels getting shown the door? This team is ridiculous, Joe.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Tell the coordinators what you want. I just don't get it. I don't. These coaches are so chummy with each other that they don't want to throw their guy under the bus. You're getting paid the $10 million. He's not. Take a rein and change the game plan. Right. If it's not working and the offensive coordinator is not getting it done, you need to have input.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
You love this segment. You nicknamed this segment. You sort of put your mark on it with the rats with the cash.
There's rats.
Right? And they're the garbage games. Although one of the games...
What are you saying, rats hang out in garbage? What's wrong with
you? Yeah, they do. Hang out in New York City. You'll see it.
A lot of rats in New York City. That's the way it is, man. Hey, we don't want to throw any names out there. Exactly.
Philly, too. Yeah, we don't talk about that.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
After the first week of football, who'd have thought Alabama would be right back on the top? After a couple losses, Texas would have a chance to be back where they are. And we've all kind of watched Texas A&M and Ole Miss kind of jump right in the hunt. And, that Texas A&M's kind of become my dark horse because they can beat you offensively and they can beat you defensively.
The Bowden Blitz, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Of course, big game in baseball tonight, and as soon as the World Series ends, usually that's when we learn who all the new managers are going to be in Major League Baseball. Some of this news is held back until the postseason is over, and one piece of news that we're not going to get was under the assumption that the Los Angeles Angels would hire Albert Pujols as their next manager. The Athletic is reporting they will not. So for whatever reason Pujols not going to be managing the Angels next season. All right, as we wrap up the show, time now to dive into some college football. We'll end with some baseball as well. Incredible performance by a young kid on the Toronto Blue Jays. And also, what does the future look like at Florida State University's football team? Time now for some last licks. Well, it didn't take long. James Franklin, ousted by Penn State a week later, shows up on College Game Day on ESPN. In fact, sitting on the set. This guy could be a great broadcaster if he wanted to and just sit back and collect hundreds of millions of dollars or whatever, $50 million, whatever he's getting paid in terms of the buyout. But Franklin basically says that he is not done coaching. He would like to continue to go. In fact, there were some discussions, including Nick Saban saying that he was treated unfairly at Penn State. Take a look at his track record. You would agree with that. Yes, he's lost some big games, but any college football program in the Big Ten or the SEC or the ACC would take his record. Franklin says that he is committed to winning a championship wherever he ends up, but there's so much money that he could collect by not coaching. It does create a fascinating dynamic. He would not get the money that's in the buyout if he takes another job as a head coach. Some of that would be eliminated because that's part of his contract. So who knows what Franklin's going to do? Could sit out a year and continue to get paid. Could he be a candidate for the University of Florida? Certainly some people are speculating that as well, but a very fun appearance on College Game Day where Franklin definitely came out and said, I'm here, I want to coach, and I want to take a team to a championship. Remains to be seen if he'll get that done. First game of the season this past season in college football opened up with Florida State taking on Alabama. The Seminoles were 14-point underdogs against FSU. FSU wins the game outright. Since then, Alabama looks like the very best team in college football, not named Ohio State. Florida State looks like one of the worst teams in college football. Yet again, they lose to a very paltry Stanford team on Saturday night, in case you were sleeping and woke up Sunday morning. Wow, FSU has just completely gone the other way. They also lost to Miami. I believe they have 3 losses now in the season after starting off so strong. Well, Florida State University, apparently, at least for now, is very happy with the way that Norvell has coached the team. In fact, they released a statement late yesterday that the school is fully committed, that's in quotes, to Norvell this season. How about that? A comprehensive assessment of the program will take place after the season. So, what does this vote of confidence mean for this season? It means absolutely nothing. We just saw what happened to Franklin. We just saw what happened to Billy Napier. We saw Trent Dilfer get fired, although it's apples and oranges probably. Coaches are going to get fired all the time, and Florida State, like Florida, is going to probably end up with a new head coach at the end of the year. The only difference, I think, with Norvell, as opposed to Napier, is Norvell can salvage the year. There's still a lot of games to play. They probably will qualify for a bowl game. Don't think they're going to get in the college football playoffs, but if they end the season very well and win a bowl game, maybe they give him another season. Either way, there's nothing to be made of a vote of confidence in the middle of a college football season. If you have to do it, it means something is not going well, and that would be the summary for Florida State's football team. How about the Toronto Blue Jays? Back home for Game 6 last night. They turned the ball back over to Trey Savage, who was so great against the Yankees and then got beat up against the Mariners and then responded yesterday by pitching amazing for Toronto. Folks, he is 22 years old, and it was just his 6th career start in Major League Baseball. 3 in the postseason, 3 in the regular season. He ends up being the winning pitcher and now forces Game 7, which is obviously fantastic in sports to get this game tonight. The Blue Jays, by the way, are minus 135 on the money line to advance to the World Series to take on the Dodgers. Everybody available in a game like this, probably going to see Max Scherzer, probably going to see on the other side, not just George Kirby starting, but maybe some of the other Seattle starters as well. This is shaping up to be a fantastic finish in the American League, as we'll get the World Series going later this week. I believe the weekend is when the World Series begins. All right, that'll do it for our show today. Our guests on the program, Vinny Iyer of Sporting News, Jacob Kamaker of USA Today, and Joe Ranieri of SportsGrid, and of course, Adam Kaplan as well. Don't forget, we got Game Time decisions coming your way later this afternoon into the evening. 2 Monday Night Football games and a Game 7 in baseball, not to mention the NHL. Also, let's not forget, tomorrow is opening night of the NBA. You can also download the SportsGrid app, track all your bets right there, scan that QR code, It's available for iOS and Android, streaming 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is the SportsGrid app. Thanks again to our director, Luke, and for my producer, Frank, I'm Craig Mish. Our 90-minute Monday edition of NewsWire comes to an end. We will see you tomorrow for our next show. Have a great day, everyone.